Hi and welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks on Instagram TV. I'm a retired 20-year veteran sergeant of the Los Angeles Police Department, having spent all 20 years in patrol as a police officer and as a patrol supervisor. Today I'm going to be talking to you about something that's making national news, and that is Philadelphia's got a new police chief, first black female police chief in the history of ever, Danielle Outlaw. I want to talk a little bit about Miss Danielle and what I have to say and think and how I feel about that whole situation because listen, let me just say this now. It may seem that I have my petty coat on, Petty. I really don't. I'm just a realist and I'm just telling you I'm telling you what I know, what I believe to be true, and I've had this conversation with several of my colleagues, because, everybody's talking about this new black female and, how is she going to do over in Philly. So let me tell you a little bit about Miss Danielle Outlaw. She is the first black female police chief also on the Portland Police Department. Now, she was on the Portland Police Department for 2 years, having come from Oakland PD. I think she was a deputy chief over on Oakland. Okay, so first of all, I'm bothered by all this moving around. Let me just say that. Just like police officers who move around like NBA players from team to team to team, generally police officers do that because they've been engaged in some kind of misconduct a lot of times where they've been given the gift of resignation, and so they just resign. Nobody really knows as far as the paper trail as to why they left. They go to another department and then they continue, to engage in abuse under the color of authority. Well, that's not why police chiefs and administrators do that. They do it because they are drunk with power, because they like the perks, they like the stuff that goes along with that title. And I don't know this to be true of women, but I think this to be true. I hear it from my peers that a lot of guys are only men when they put that uniform on, right? And so they become somebody, and they like being referred to by that title. So they leave and they go from one department to another. Anyway, I don't know what Miss Danielle's situation is, why she's moving around so much, but she's moving around so much. And so now she's headed over to Philly. And listen, I wish her well, sister. I promise you, I wish you well, but I'm a realist. And I'm also realizing I don't have my microphone on. So hang on, I want to make sure you can hear me. I'm a realist. And I believe that, truthfully, I believe they're setting Miss Danielle up to fail. I think that, there's a lot of stuff going on over there in Philadelphia. The former commissioner, Richard Ross, I believe his name was involved in all kind of sexual shenanigans. And so, it would make sense to kind of calm the natives to bring in a female, because you would assume that she will put an end to some of the shenanigans that are going on with regards to sexual harassment. Now, you would assume, right? You hate to assume, because you know what happens when you do that. You make an ass out of you and me, that there will be no sexual harassment. It's not to say that it couldn't happen with a female police chief, but nonetheless, they've got some issues over there. And so I'm just thinking, much like when Willie Williams came to LAPD, I feel like they brought him there to fail. He was an outsider. And when you come into another police department as an outsider, it's already difficult. Come into that police department as an outsider looking like me, a black woman, and then you add to that difficulty times 3, right? Outsider, black, female. And I know this to be true. I'm not just pulling this out of my nether regions family. I'm telling you what I know, and it's been substantiated because I read, and you can too. Don't take what I say as gospel. Do your research. But I read that while she was on the Portland Police Department, they were not so nice, not so helpful. She was an outsider, and one of the councilwomen over there even said that, it takes a Herculean effort to be able to succeed as an outsider. And Danielle Outlaw didn't get that on Portland. As a matter of fact, I'm reading where they kind of even almost sound like they're making a little dig as she goes out the door. They talk about the fact that she was engaged in trying to do something with police abuse fatal police shootings of homeless, mentally ill folks on the Portland Police Department. And listen, it was only about 1,000 members on that department. She was having problems. She's headed over to Philadelphia, where they have a 6,500 sworn member force and 800 civilians. Much, much bigger. So expect the problems to be bigger. Expect the non-support to be bigger. It's reported that while she was over there on Portland, that, you know, folks weren't happy with the way she handled public demonstrations that involved, it says, far-right and anti-fascist activists. She came under fire, they said, especially from the progressives over in Portland. It's reported that while she was there, she was trying to up the number of officers on the department because they were understaffed, right? And in so doing, it says, and I don't know why they said it like this, but they said that she lowered the standards for hiring, because you used to have a degree, and she lowered it to all you have to do is be a high school graduate in order to apply to be a police officer in Portland. And so, you know, I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad thing. Okay, so you only went to high school and you graduated and you became a police officer. But the way they said it, she lowered the hiring standards. Listen, I was a high school only grad when I joined LAPD, not because, you know, I wanted to be a police officer. I never wanted to be a police officer. I just needed a good paying job with benefits. And LAPD was under a consent decree to hire women and minorities. I needed a good paying job, and I liked the benefits, and I liked the fact that I could join the LAPD when I did, work for 20 years as I did, and retire on a service pension for the rest of my life. So, you know, don't make it sound like just being a high school grad is a bad thing, and they lowered the standards under Danielle Outlaw. That's what they said. And this councilwoman also talked about the fact that Danielle, while she was over in Portland, she didn't have the support of the police bureau. She didn't have a support team. She never in the 2 years that she was there found that support that she needed to really thrive and be successful over on the Portland Police Department. So does it sound to you like they're setting her up to fail? It sounds like that to me. This councilwoman, her name is Councilwoman Hardesty, and she goes, chiefs will come and go, but it's the culture that you leave behind that matters the most. I don't know what kind of culture she's leaving behind. Now, with regards to the mentally ill folks, you know, she set up a little task force or review board or something to deal with this. And even Outlaw says, according to the article that you can Google, she says that she was dismayed over the continuing mental health crisis. And even with all that she had tried to do, there were at least 3 of the 5 people who had been killed by police during that year, I believe last year, because that's kind of when the article was written at the end of December 2019, 3 of 5 people killed by police were suffering mental illness crisis. So I don't know, Danielle. Philly is reported to be the 4th biggest in the country. If you were having those kind of struggles, sister girl, if you weren't getting the support that you needed over there with 8,000-9,000 officers, 800, 900, 1,000 police officers, whatever it is on Portland, if you couldn't get that support over there, how are you going to do well here? Let's listen to Danielle, shall we?
I am convinced that trust can be restored here and all across our nation. I am convinced that community policing or community police relations can be rebuilt and fortified through dialogue, transparency, and accountability. That was true in Oakland and in Portland, and I know it to be true here in Philadelphia. It will be an absolute privilege to serve as Philadelphia Police Commissioner and to serve each and every one of you who live and work in this beautiful city. I will work relentlessly to reduce crime in Philadelphia, particularly the insidious gun violence that plagues too many of our communities. And I will do so in a way that ensures Our people are trusted equitably, regardless of their gender identity, race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. I will ensure that the values embodied in the badges and uniforms of the Philadelphia Police Department are those same values embodied in the diverse communities of Philadelphia. We will be accountable to ourselves, to each other, and to our communities. But to be clear, I cannot do this alone. No single commissioner, no single mayor, no single commander, no activist, nor elected official can lead such change alone. I ask each of you for more than your support. I ask you to open your minds to the possibility that these changes can help all of us. That this is not an us versus them, one side against the other. We can be supportive of police, and we can be supportive of police accountability at the same time. They are not mutually exclusive. Together, we will build a department that is just as compassionate and humane in serving our residents as it is effective in solving and reducing crime. And I will.
So look, I don't know if Danielle is naive. Clearly she bleeds blue. Or if she's just hopeful. I pray that she's able to surround herself with folks who will help her. But let me tell you something about her also. She spent very little time in patrol, and I knew this when I read the article, and there's a couple of different ones that speak to it. Says that she rose quickly through the ranks. So let me decipher that code talk for you. That means she didn't have no time in patrol. And what I do know for a fact is that patrol officers only really respect people with patrol experience. If you haven't been eastbound through the houses chasing a suspect, it's very difficult for you to talk to me about what's going to happen behind that house, Captain, Chief, if you've never done it. It says that after her little time in patrol, she held multiple other posts. I don't know what those other posts were, but it sounds like she was in the building, as we would call it. She spent time as a captain in internal affairs before she became a deputy chief. 20 years in Oakland, 2 years in Portland, 22 years in total, it sounds like, in law enforcement. And so you hear her say, we can't do it alone. She knows what it is to try to do it alone. She knows what it looks like to not have the support of the Bureau over in Portland. She's asking for more than support from that department and from the community, the support that she didn't get in Portland. I don't know, family. It just sounds to me like they're setting her up to fail. And so she'll be the first police chief in Philly. She was the first female black police chief in Portland. And she just might wind up being the first black female police chief to fail. The first black female police chief to be the scapegoat over in Philly with all that's going on over there that she is not going to be able to fix. Yeah, she might be able to stop the guys from grabbing the girls' asses, in the hallway and catcalling, but is she really going to be able to deal with that gun violence when she couldn't even stop mental illness deaths on the Portland Police Department? And listen, I understand that police chief is not responsible for your officers wholesale, but the buck stops with her. She's the police chief. They're expecting a lot out of her. To one who is given much, much is expected. I hope she's up for the task. Sister girl, I wish you well. I really, really do. I'm taking my petticoat off now. That's it for this segment of Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. Till next time, be good and be safe. And for more about Sergeant Dorsey, visit my website, www.sergeantcheryldorsey.com, where you can read the first chapter of my autobiography, which chronicles my career on the Los Angeles Police Department, Black and Blue, the creation of a social advocate. Take good care, family.